Per request, in this video, I will share with you how I booked my international business class award flight during my recent trip to Italy and Croatia. So this is part one of two because I did use two different airline loyalty program points to book my international round trip business class flights. And in this part, we will talk about how I use the Aeroplan program, which is from Air Canada, to book my return trip from Croatia. One of the major goals of travel hacking is to pay for travel using points. And a way to get points as quickly as possible is through credit card sign-up bonuses. And so us travel hackers are always on the lookout for elevated sign-up bonuses for credit card applications. Back in late 2021, I received an email from Chase that there is a new partnership credit card coming out for Air Canada's Aeroplan program. While I didn't know much about it at the time, I signed up for the waitlist, which also gave me an extra 10,000 bonus points just for being on the waitlist. And I ended up applying for the card as it became available in early 2022, and it had a sign-up offer of 100,000 points total. That came in the form of two certificates, each worth 50,000 points each. And so thanks to signing up for this card and getting the sign-up bonus of the two 50,000 point certificates, that's when I started learning more about Aeroplan. Prior to getting the credit card, I really didn't know much of anything about the Aeroplan program. But since then, I have gained a lot of experience using it, and it's become one of my favorite award search engines for Star Alliance bookings. There are many different airlines part of the Star Alliance. It includes Air Canada, United, Lufthansa, and ANA, just to name a few. It's a powerful search engine because you can use it to search one-way, round-trip, multi-city, and stopover awards. And the best part is you don't even need to have an account to do the search. When you are on the page to start searching for flights, there is a pop-up that prompts you to sign in. However, you do not need to sign in and you don't need to have an account. You can just click the X to close the pop-up and start your search. When you're on the aircanada.com homepage, hover over the word book and then click on flight under book travel. It then takes you to this page that has a search box, and there's a variety of options you can select, like the round trip, one way, or multi-city. What you want to make sure to do is check the box that says book with points Aeroplan, because that's how you're going to see the point redemption awards. Otherwise, I'll show you the cash options for booking flights. Patience, time, and creativity are often required when it comes to searching for premium class award flights. It's usually much easier to search for economy award flights, but if you really want to have an elevated, luxurious flight experience, then the premium class awards are the way to go. Here are my search tips for how to increase your chances of booking those premium class award flights. I always start with the optimal city pair and optimal dates, but I also like to have some flexibility by having alternative dates like plus or minus 2 or 3 days if my schedule allows. And to increase your chances of finding availability of premium class award flights, it's important to also keep an open mind and look at nearby major airports for your departure city and destination city. And so that involves maybe doing a search online to see what are the airports within that country that you're trying to go to, as well as thinking about what are the major cities or major hubs for airlines around those areas. So for example, because I'm based out of the Pacific Northwest, with the SeaTac International Airport being my home airport, I always not only look for flights departing Seattle, I also look for flights departing Vancouver, San Francisco, Los Angeles, or Las Vegas. Sometimes if I'm really desperate, I even look as far out as Chicago and Houston, but I really try to avoid those if I can, because then that's a longer positioning flight that's required. And then in terms of destination, major hubs in Europe, for example, include Paris, Amsterdam, Frankfurt, London, and Rome. And so regardless of where you're trying to go to in Europe, those are generally good bets when it comes to major hubs with lots of different flight options. It is often also helpful to start looking for award availability as far in advance as possible. Usually, airlines release award seats about 11 to 12 months in advance. Because they generally only release 1 or 2 premium class award seats at a time, it's especially helpful to then book in advance to beat your competition. It's important to also keep in mind that each airline's search engine has access to partner awards at different times. For example, I was recently looking for flights on ANA, and I used 3 different search engines to compare their timing for award availability. So when I use the ANA's search engine, I noticed that I could see awards a week ahead of the calendar that's being shown for award availability on Aeroplan. And then also compared to Virgin Atlantic, which is another search engine that can be used for Star Alliance flights, I noticed that Aeroplan was able to see 3 weeks ahead of Virgin Atlantic when it comes to the award calendar. And so it can definitely make a difference which airline you're trying to fly with and which search engine you're using for those award bookings. There is report that sometimes 1 or 2 weeks prior to departure, airlines may release additional unsold premium class seats and make them available for award booking. However, most people do not have that flexibility in their schedule to make travel plans with just 1 or 2 weeks of notice. However, if you do have that flexibility, definitely take advantage of this potential. I have only personally ever used it to upgrade myself from, for example, business class to first class based on last minute availability release. So I haven't had the chance to really ever plan a trip on super short notice of 1 to 2 weeks to take advantage of these last minute premium class award seat releases. In my case, my goal was to travel to Italy and Croatia sometime in April or May 2023. I started checking for award flight availability back in August 2022. It didn't really matter to me if I went to Italy or Croatia first on this trip, and so that gave me a lot of different options for major airports to fly into. So in my search, I looked for flights to Rome and Naples in Italy because I was going to be traveling to the south of Italy. And I also looked for flights to Dubrovnik, Split, and Zagreb in Croatia. If I had no luck when it came to these searches, then I even broadened it to look for flights to nearby hubs like Paris, Frankfurt, and Amsterdam. My goal was to at least leave from my own home airport or arrive at my main destination's airport. What I mean by that was that I wanted to try to limit the number of positioning flights if I could. So for example, if my goal was to fly from Seattle to Rome, then I was willing to potentially book a flight if it was available from Seattle to Paris and then connect to Rome, or Seattle to London and connect to Rome. Or I could potentially look for a flight from San Francisco to Rome or LA to Rome. That way I only had to do a positioning flight for one of those, whether it's from my departure or from my arrival, and not both. Because I like try to avoid, for example, flying from Seattle to San Francisco to Paris and then Rome. Here's an example of what it looks like on the Air Canada website when searching for award availability. If a lot of search results come up, you can try to filter them. There are various filters that can be used. For example, you can look for nonstop versus multiple stops. Select a specific airline if you're interested in one in particular. You can also select to filter out mixed cabin awards. You definitely want to be watchful of those whenever it says mixed cabin, because sometimes if you're looking for business class flight and it's a mixed cabin award, maybe only 5% of your flight is in business class, and it still charges a significant number of miles. So definitely hover over that mixed cabin and details for the flight to ensure that you're really maximizing the amount of time that you're going to be in business class if you're trying to book a mixed class premium award flight. One of the negatives of the Aeroplan search engine is that you can't look at a calendar for the awards, because that way a calendar will let you see more dates, especially if you can be more flexible with your travel dates. And unfortunately, because of the lack of the award calendar, you literally have to just modify each search date at a time to see the possibility of award availability on dates surrounding the one that you were initially looking for. You can find the results filter by clicking on more options. This box comes up with a variety of options to click on for the filter. For my trip, I ended up finding premium class award availability for a flight from Dubrovnik to Vancouver, BC. Unfortunately, as you can see here, it did require several stops. So I ended up having to fly from Dubrovnik to Vienna to Frankfurt and then to Vancouver. And then lastly, I had to book a separate flight from Vancouver to Seattle to return home. But honestly, I didn't mind having all these stopovers. And that was because all of these flights were in business class. 2 of those connecting flights are very short in duration. And I got to experience a new airline in the form of Austrian Airlines. That was my first time flying on that airline. And even though they were really short flights, they still provided actually really lovely meals on real with trays with metal cutlery and porcelain bowls and such. So it was actually a really enjoyable experience. And for the Frankfurt layover, before I returned home in Vancouver, it was a long enough layover that I was even able to go into town in Frankfurt that morning and check out Frankfurt for the very first time. So I kind of got to add an extra destination to my trip. I booked 2 tickets in business class for that flight, and each ticket was 70,000 miles plus some fees. And because I had those 2 50,000 point certificates, I was able to apply the certificate value and then just add 20,000 points per person in order to book the flight. And thanks to Aeroplan being a transfer partner for several different credit cards, it was easy to transfer over those extra points that were required to secure this flight. Aeroplan points can be transferred from American Express, Chase, and Capital One. And it's especially nice that for all 3 programs, the point transfer is basically instantaneous. So again, that was helpful in securing the tickets, because who knows if those tickets would be available if I had to wait a day or 2. A couple of other tips to keep in mind for Aeroplan. Be sure to watch out for transfer bonuses. For some of these credit card programs, they do occasionally offer transfer bonuses where instead of a 1-to-1 point transfer, you can do a 1 to 1.3, so like a 20 or 30% bonus when it comes to transferring points from Chase to Aeroplan, for example. And another component that you can take advantage of is that you can book stopovers for just an extra 5,000 miles. And that's pretty cool if you want to visit multiple destinations and still be all covered under one award ticket. For example, when I was doing my search, I found a business class award ticket from North America to Abu Dhabi via Etihad Airways on a direct flight for around, I believe, 90,000 miles. And then use the multi-city search option, and I actually found that I could connect from Abu Dhabi to Rome for just an additional 5,000 miles, and this whole trip would still be in business class. And so for 95,000 miles, I could have flown from North America to Abu Dhabi to do a stopover there for a couple days and check out Abu Dhabi, and then continue on to Rome for just a total of 95,000 miles. That's actually a fantastic deal in my opinion. I didn't end up booking that specific route because of timing reasons, but I thought that would have been a really fantastic use of the Aeroplan miles. Here's an example of a transfer bonus. Right now, through the end of July 2023, Chase is offering a 20% bonus when transferring Ultima reward points to Aeroplan. This screen shows how to search for multi-city or stopover rewards. When you're on your search engine box, make sure to check the multi-city/stopover button as well as the book with points Aeroplan button. This will allow you to get the appropriate results. For award bookings, there's usually always at least a little bit of cash payment required to cover the fuel surcharge and maybe a few other fees. And so you have to decide which credit card to use to pay for those fees, and it does make a difference. I'm personally a fan of using the Chase Sapphire Reserve card to pay for those award booking fees, and that's because Chase Sapphire Reserve has one of the best trip insurance coverage. Even if only part of the airfare is paid with the credit card, that trip insurance coverage is active. American Express Platinum can also be a good option because you can get 5 times the points for travels booked with airlines. However, the trip insurance coverage only applies if the card is used to pay for the entire round-trip flight. So that might not be as good of a coverage, or it might not even be active if you're only paying for one leg of your trip with the Platinum card. There are other credit cards that offer trip cancellation and interruption coverage, and they all have kind of variations of how much they cover and under what conditions. For example, for trip delays, some cards will say, oh, the trip has to be delayed by more than 6 hours versus more than 12 hours, and so those can definitely make a difference. And based on my assessment and comparisons of the different coverages offered, the Chase Sapphire Reserved generally comes on top when it comes to the most comprehensive and generous coverage. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this video was helpful to you. Please feel free to leave comments or questions or recommendations for other videos and information that you would like to see. And please subscribe for more videos. Have a great day.